The Rosen Report, sports like never before. Brought to you by Gooch Live and Paramount Sports Management. Here's Rosie.
Good Thursday afternoon. I just got a phone call there. Tried to get that off the screen. Anyways, yes, good Thursday afternoon. It is September 30th, and I could not find an orange shirt, but I found an orange towel. I want to pay my respect and homage to today is now a national holiday. It is called the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. Wear your orange. Let's be very respectful to the Indigenous community, to everything that they have done for our freedom. And let's never forget, as the late, great Gord Downey of the Tragically Hip tried to get the world to understand we are nowhere without the past. And yeah, so I have my orange towel on. And September 30th, wow, I can't believe it. 32 months ago was when I spent my my little time in the hospital. I'm 32 months clean and sober today on the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. We're going to have a little bit of a different show today. We've got the great Jamie Maguire from Maguire Goaltending coming up to talk a little. He's going to the Yankee game, so don't have a ton of time with him. Jordan LaRoche, the great producer, director, and Grand Poobah, just came in a couple of hours ago from a drive home from Ottawa. He was at the Sens game last night with the Leafs. We'll talk about his journey with his dad, John, and the Gooch, and see everything they had. And we'll talk a little bit about the upcoming season. I apologize for Tuesday. I could not do a show on Tuesday because I run my show out of my little basement apartment here in Sharon, Ontario, outside of Newmarket. And unfortunately, the internet went down in our place, so I could not do the show. We are subject to the internet and to all the science going on in the world and technology. And some days you just can't do it. Anyways, I just got the message that Jamie is here, so why don't we bring him up? We're going to bring up Jordan for a couple of minutes too. I know he's tired, but Jamie, Jordan, come on up if you can.
Hi, Rosie.
Mags, Jordan, how you doing, guys?
Good, not bad at all. Well,
Good,
you got a towel on your shoulders, Rosie? What's happening here?
Today is actually the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation Day.
Yes, it is.
It's starting this year, today, September 30th. It will be a national holiday, a statutory holiday every year. You're asked to wear orange. I searched everywhere for an orange T-shirt, couldn't find one, but I found an orange towel. So I have my orange towel on me for my respect and everything to the Aboriginal, to the Indigenous community. James, I know that you are going to, I wish I was in your shoes, going to see the Blue Jays and the Yankees. And I'm telling you, I'm a big baseball fan. Everybody knows me, knows I my roots go back very, very strongly to baseball. I haven't missed a game. I tend to not sleep very much, so I've watched a lot of ball. And boy, last night was talk about pulling that one out of your behind. Man, when they gave up the lead, and Tim Mesa, who's been a really solid pitcher for the Jays, he gave up the shot to, said, "Oh my God, we're in trouble now." But then Bo Bichette, old Dante's son, comes through. Tonight's the big one. They have to win tonight, and tonight, if they win and Robbie Ray has a good game, he's going to lock himself into that Cy Young award, because Cole, it's down to Cole and Robbie Ray. And I think Cole's game last night looked a little shaky. If Ray can have a good one, he's got it. But this is a hockey show, not a baseball show. We'll get to that soon. We want you to have fun.
But hey, but what a pressure game from Bo Bichette. Like, he's young, and Vladdy had one hit last night, but Bo had 3 hits and 2 home runs. Like, that is unbelievable, to be 22 years old, or I think he's 22, in that situation. to come up that big. I understand Simeon and I understand, Springer, but for Bichette to do what he did, I think that's pretty awesome.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. And before Jordan talks about what his journey in Ottawa last night, you got to remember what they've done this year too. 4 players over 100 RBIs, which is incredible. Over 20 home runs. Simeon breaks the all-time record for home runs by a second baseman set by Davey Johnson, who was a great manager and played way back before you were even thought of, Jordan, with the New York Mets, and played with the Red Sox. And then Vladdy with, he's still leading the league, tied in the league with home runs with Sal Perez and
tied in hits now with Bo Bichette.
Yeah, you talk about this. The team is on roll, but you know what? It'll all be for naught if they don't win tonight. And I watch Seattle Mariners. They're actually ahead. It's the Yankees and the Mariners and the Red Sox and the Jays right now. The Mariners have beaten the Oakland Athletics 12. You talk about Oakland was ahead of them. 12 straight games. They've gone into Oakland and Seattle and beat them. They're off today. So it's going to be huge. You're going to be watching everything. Aaron Becker says Barres was amazing as well. You know what? He pitched 5 almost perfect innings. He had a perfect game until he gave up back to back, and then was sitting on his back. But that's baseball. Hey, George, talk to us about your journey to Ottawa.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously my dad's in town for the last few weeks, and he wanted to see a hockey game. So, Toronto was just too much, so we figured Ottawa was a good choice. It was a good game. I mean, we saw Toronto anyway, but Toronto kind of did dominate the game. Ottawa looked kind of gassed. But on top of all that, Peter Mrazek was the only guy who kind of really stood out last night. I'd never seen him play in person before, but he's a small goalie. I didn't think he'd be that small in his net, but really athletic, a really good skater, controlled all his rebounds. He was really fun to watch. But again, just a really fun experience. Caught up with Roger Lajoie after the game as well. We saw a game with Robert Wine, a longtime viewer as well. So it was a lot of fun. And I mean, hopefully I'll be back there at some point this year as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And Roger, Roger, we all love him. He's been around a long, long time. We just finished my book, which will be out for Christmas, hopefully for Christmas presents. Everybody will buy the Paul Rosen story. I hear it's a pretty good story. I think it'll be a good one. And Roger he's the head of communications for, I think that's his title, head of communications.
I think director of marketing.
Head of communications, director of marketing, potatoes, tomatoes. He got a great job with the Ottawa Senators. So congrats to Roger. He is a dear friend and a hell of a writer. Hey, Jamie, have you been to Ottawa?
Yep.
I know, I think did Hutch play last night?
No,
Mrazek, Hutch was backing up, but and you saw his new pads, which he actually had halfway through last year. Wayne Palmer, I think, the goalie that he copied the pad design from. Not Wayne Palmer, Wayne something. I don't know did you see, Jordan? Did you see the pads that Hutch has with the Maple Leafs all over them?
No, we missed the warm up, but it was similar to say the Garrett Sparks old pads.
Close, but a little bit, but cooler. We're not going to compare him to Garrett Sparks.
Garrett Sparks, the guy who for his first game ever got a shutout, and then they thought he was the next Johnny Bauer.
That's right. And then after he lost a few in a row, he blamed Austin Matthews and John Tavares, like he had that right. But anyways.
Yeah, I think he kind of buried his career before it even started, but we won't go there. So you have been to Ottawa? I've been to Ottawa many, many, many times, and I think I've been there. Every time I was there, it was a different name: the Crossroads, the Palladium, the TD Center. Now it's called the Canadian Tire Center, Bell Sensplex. I don't know. What's your thoughts of that building?
I think it's a great building. Unfortunately, I think it's a little bit. I know why they built it in Canada, and there was a good reason for doing that. I think they thought it would be helpful as far as traffic is concerned and getting people in and out. But they were also supposed to build a community around the facility. with restaurants and a hotel. And I don't, I haven't been there in a few years, but I don't think any of that came to fruition. And right now, to be perfectly honest with you, the people in Ottawa, if you ever listen to Ottawa Talk Radio, I mean, they just wish it was in the core. They wish this, very similar to what we have, where we've got, all our stadiums in Toronto are right downtown. And I think that's, kind of what they hope for in Ottawa. But it is what it is right now. And the traffic is not better. It's terrible getting in and out of games.
No, it's brutal. And the 417 going from downtown into Ottawa, you can make it there in 15 minutes if there's no traffic, but it can take 2 hours to get off that off ramp. And we, as a sled team, we actually started training right about less than a mile, a kilometer, I think, is the Bell Senators, the where they have a 4-pad where the Senators train, and Melnick was in on all that. Yeah. We had all of our practices and training camps there in Ottawa. There was an incident that we had to leave there, but that's for another show. But anyways, yeah, it was, other than those two buildings and kind of Motel 6 kind of thing, it was like you blocked the team into Nowheresville. And it's never going to work there. Although I think the team is on the rise. It's a young, very good looking team for the future. I said to Roger, this is a good time to join an organization where the future looks very bright. I'm going to ask both of you this question. Jordan, you first. The future of the Ottawa Senators, how bright do you think it can be?
I mean, you look at all the young pieces, Tim Stützle, Brady Tkachuk, who's still unsigned right now. So that is kind of a glaring issue there. But I mean, this team coming down the stretch last season, they were one of the best teams in the NHL, probably the last 20 games. I think if maybe a full season, they probably could have clawed into a bottom playoff spot. But again, with the shortened season, that's really tough to do. I mean, you look at that defense too. Thomas Chabot, Nikita Zaitsev there as well. I really like this team.
Yeah, I mean, and can you imagine if their goaltending was consistent throughout the entire season last year, even though it was shortened? But I think they went through 6 or 7 different starting goaltenders in games last year, and guys just kept getting hurt. And they've lost a few of those. Joey Decord is now in Seattle, and they've lost a bunch. But if their goaltending can be more consistent, they're a good team. They almost passed Calgary in the standings near the end of the year last year.
That's right.
It was close. It was close.
They're a really good young team. So,
hey Jim, good jump from what I want to talk about now. Talking about goaltending. First of all, I'm looking on the side. Johnny LaRoche, Jordan's dad. Roger's a gentleman. He is a gentleman. There's no doubt about it. And Kerry Goulet, who it seems like I haven't seen him in ages.
Yes. Thank you, Kerry.
Jamie, you are looking amazing. I don't know whether you're on the payroll now, Jamie, or what, but Gooch has never said that to me, which that can be for another show. That's okay. I understand. Where do you see the goaltending this year as we're getting ready to start a full year, 82 games, touch wood. Hopefully we will get through it without any issues. The hair, I get it. Your hair does look quite nice, Jamie.
Thank you.
Anyways, what's your thoughts on goaltending as a whole? And then we can sort of get into the Toronto Maple Leafs, but as first goaltending as a whole with the league.
I don't totally understand the question, Rosie. Goaltending what's my feeling on goaltending in the league?
Okay, going into this year, look back the last couple of years. Do you think that the teams now, like Toronto, they have 2 goaltenders that could be the number one in Mrazek and Campbell? Not really a Carey Price here. Is goaltending going away from that now? There's not a lot of superstars in net, is what I meant to say. It's more of that tandem type of situation. Is that where the NHL is going now?
I don't know if that's where the NHL is going. You have seen some success with that in the past year or two. And even going back further, I think that having a solid number one who's going to play, let me go back and say playing 60, 70 games a year for a starter, I think is too much. So they have kind of transitioned to their starter getting 50, 55 games, but they need a reliable backup. And I remember a few years ago when Hutch was backing up Anderson, and they had called him in the summer, and they said, look, this is what we expect of you. You're going to play 30 games. We want you to go 500. We want you to have a save percentage over 900 and a goals against under 3. So it's, and I think if the backup can provide numbers like that, then that's a really good situation. The situation in Toronto, we'll see what happens. Jack Campbell feels like it's his job. Mrazek feels like it's his job. I mean, it will be really interesting. I don't know how those personalities will clash either. You have to be a special person to really get along with your goalie partner. Because not everybody does. It's not an easy environment because you want the net, So I'd be interested to see how this plays out.
Sorry about that, Jamie. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I did not have the greatest relationship with some of my goalie partners. Those numbers don't seem like they really wanted. We're asking a ton.
Well, that was my point. You need a solid backup to come in, and unfortunately, that was 3 years ago, and Hutch didn't meet those numbers. That's the year they traded for Campbell after the Rangers game in February. When they lost 5-2 and Hutch Anderson had gotten hurt, and they made a trade for Campbell at that point in time. And that's when Hutch got traded to Colorado. But yeah, those were the expectations preseason was, we need a guy to come in and play 30, 35, go 500, over 900 save, under 3 goals against. And if you can do that as a backup, I think you're doing the job that you're supposed to do for your team, and you're giving the starter a rest. But when starters have to go in and play, Marc-Andre Fleury and Carey Price numbers of years gone by, 60, 70 games, I think that's too much. And it's hard to carry that momentum into the playoffs and at least play well.
Hey, before I ask Jordan a question, Jamie, one more about the Leafs, and then we'll let them go to sleep for a little while. As we know, this is going to be a dominating season about the Leafs. Whether they have a great year, then you're always, even if they have a phenomenal year, you're always going to be questioning when the playoffs start. If they have a stinky year, you want to fire everybody. So it's kind of a no-win situation, in my opinion, for the Leafs until the playoffs. Do you think Mrazek? I know Jordan and I talked last week about this. I actually love Mrazek. I think if he stays healthy, he's their number one guy. What's your thoughts on that?
100%. We cannot forget that Jack Campbell has only played 75 games in the NHL. So, there's a small sample size from last year, and I hope that Campbell can continue to do that. But those are pretty outstanding numbers, and I would be surprised if he comes back that strong this year. But I think Mrazek was brought in to be the number one. And we'll see what happens, but he has had tremendous success in the last 3 or 4 years. And Mrazek has battled. Like, he was in Detroit to start, and he lost his job. He was in his 3rd year in the NHL. He was sent down to Grand Rapids, and they kept Jimmy Howard and Jared Coreau. And Jared Coreau got the start, a goaltender who had worked with us, and Jared got the start in the Winter Classic against the Leafs, and Mrazek was in the minors. But he battled and he battled and he battled. And, a lot of guys get sent down to the minors and their attitude changes, and they it frustrates them and they don't play well. And Mrazek went down and he proved that he shouldn't be in the American Hockey League, and he deserved to be back in the NHL, and he got another chance. And, now he's, I think, the starting goaltender for the Toronto Maple Leafs, which is pretty cool.
I just hope he stays healthy. He's had years of injuries, and we know Jack Campbell, if you skate by him the wrong way, he's out for 3 games. Question to both of you. Jordan, you first. The Carolina Hurricanes, something I don't think we've ever seen. 3 goaltenders last year, all 3 of them incredibly strong at times, all gone. All 3 of them gone. Totally different net. 2 new goalies in, so you've got 5 guys within a matter of months that have had a piece of that net in Carolina. How crazy is that, George?
I mean, I can kind of get behind getting rid of Mrazek because Nedeljkovic was incredible going down the stretch and into the playoffs, but the whole Nedeljkovic thing just kind of leaves a bad taste in my mouth. I mean, this guy's a rookie coming into the league. He's shown that he can play at this level. I think he's one of the best goalies in the playoffs, especially in that series against Nashville, where each game was going to double, triple overtime, and he was making 40, 50 saves a night in one playoff series. It just makes no sense to me. But like I said, like getting rid of Mrazek to kind of give Nedeljkovic a little more confidence, that move would have made more sense to me. But moving to Nedeljkovic, I'm just totally lost by it.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on that, James?
Well, my thought is they can't figure out what they want to do with goaltending. I mean, keep in mind, their highest paid goaltender right now is Scott Darling, and he hasn't been in the league in 2 years because they signed him to a huge contract 3 years ago, $17 million over 4 years, and so they're still paying him because they bought him out. But yeah, I don't know if Carolina really has their finger on the pulse of goaltending, but we'll see what happens this year with Freddie, and unfortunately, yes, they did get rid of his support, so maybe Freddie's going to have to play 60 games this year. Who knows? I mean, we know he can, but can he carry that into the playoffs? We haven't seen that yet.
They also
they brought Antti Ranta as well. I
mean,
that's
right. That's right.
He's still a very serviceable goalie.
Yeah, he's a great backup. Yeah.
Hey, do you know where Darling is right now? I tried to look at that and I couldn't find anything. Is he?
He's not playing.
Is he with another team, Jordan? If you can look that one up. I know he got bought out, so then it leaves him open to sign.
He was. I talked to him a few times last year during the season. He wasn't playing anywhere last year. He made a comment to me. He says, "My God, I'm sitting here cleaning up, dog shit in my backyard." Excuse me, but waiting for an opportunity. But so he wasn't anywhere last year. I don't know what he's. I haven't talked to him in the last 6 months.
But what he has that neither one of us have?
A Stanley Cup ring from his hometown, Chicago Blackhawks.
God bless him. And I tell you what, say whatever you want. If it wasn't for him, they do not get Nashville in 100%. Round 1, and they do not get through to win their second Stanley Cup. No chance.
We talk about addiction and alcoholism a lot, and that's Scott. It's no secret that Scott has struggled, and I remember that Stanley Cup run closely because Scott and I stayed very close together because he was really nervous. He was sober then. And we stayed in touch throughout the whole run because, he didn't want to drink. And it was sort of like a life coach sort of thing, or a sober coach during the playoffs for him. He has since struggled again. And that's part of the reason he's not in the league, and that's a great lesson. And Scott and I have talked about it a lot, but, you fall off the wagon, and he fell off slowly. And he believed a beer here and a beer there would be okay. But for people like myself, and I know I can speak for you, Rosie, there's an expression, one is too many, 1,000's never enough. I mean, it slowly progressed, and, there was a ton of pressure. He signed with Carolina, and I can remember him saying to me, James, Chicago, it was perfect. I was behind Crawford, who's also in recovery. There's 3 or 4 guys in Chicago that were in recovery.
Robin Leonard, who was there and then went to Vegas.
So he said, I was a backup in Chicago. I didn't have any pressure. I went in, it was okay. Now I'm a starter in Carolina. Like, I don't know if I want this job, and that wasn't a starter's mentality, and he went in and he did his best, but the pressure that he felt, I think, it caused, to start drinking a little bit again. And then, you realize very quickly that he was only successful because he had stayed clean and sober.
Right. And the crazy thing, I don't want to get too heavy on this show, but today is the 30th of September. I'm 32 months clean and sober today. You've been a huge part of my recovery, Jamie, being you almost, is it 20 years now?
22 years last June. I just celebrated 22 years on June 28th.
22 years, unbelievable.
Thank you.
For me, it's I say something when I go to my meetings, and I have a meeting tonight, is I don't know about another recovery, like a relapse. I don't know how I get through another relapse, but I know I'll never be able to get through another recovery. So it's a tough community to, we all stay pretty tight. And, I hope that whatever Scott goes through the rest of his life, he just goes through it healthy and happy. Yeah,
so do I. And we're, like I said, we haven't talked in I said 6 months. It's probably been 3 or 4 months, but, he'll be okay. He's got a strong heart, and he'll figure out his path. And he was an inspiration to a lot of kids. He came from the SP, and he went to the East Coast, and then he went to the American League, and he battled and made the NHL and won a cup in his hometown of Chicago. And but sometimes we forget that you stop doing the things that helped make you successful. And because you're so successful, you think, okay, I don't have to do this and this and this anymore. And then you stop doing those things, and 3 years later, he's out of the league. And I'm not talking behind Scott's back. We're very, we talk about this openly. But but it's a lesson for everybody, I think.
Hey, George, before we let Jamie go, it's 4:25 and he's got, there's Aaron. Proud of you both. Thanks, Aaron.
Thanks, Aaron.
Big fan of you, and I'm proud of you. Jamie, going to the Jays Yankee game tonight. It's going to be a phenomenal game. What an atmosphere. George, let's talk about your team. This is the last thing we'll talk about with James. Your Rangers. I was watching a so-called expert show, and they called this expert, which I'm not going to say its name, whatever. He called your Rangers and my Blackhawks to not make the playoffs even this year. I think both those teams look solid, very solid. I'm really happy with what the Hawks have done this year, especially in goal. I think the Rangers have a very good, solid team and very solid in goal. Talk to us about your thoughts on this year of the Rangers, and then Jamie, you can talk to us about the Rangers goaltending.
Yeah, I think the Rangers, they'll probably just squeeze into the playoffs. I mean, this is still a really young team. Last year, they were one of the bottom three youngest in the league as well. So we're having a big influx of young guys coming in, like Nils Lundqvist, Braden Schneider, Zach Jones, and a lot of them will make the roster this year. We saw a couple of trades made in the offseason with Pavel Buchnevich as well. So, and this is just trying to create some space for these young guys to actually have an opportunity to play top 6 minutes with top 6 guys. You look at Lafreniere last year, skated a little bit on the third line, so did Kapokako. And these are guys that need to have top 6 experience because these guys are going to be top 6 players. You look at the defensive side, Adam Fox winning the Norris. I think that's probably, maybe being a little bit biased, but I think that's probably the right choice. And we have another guy coming in, Nils Lundqvist and Zach Jones as well. A lot of early reports are saying that they're all very similar players, and they're all kind of going in that same trajectory. And I mean, if you watch any of the preseason from the Rangers, Zach Jones looks like a younger Adam Fox, and Nils Lundqvist just looks a very, very seasoned defenseman already. He played in the SHL last year, so maybe it will be a bit of a stretch, but I think they can kind of climb into one of those bottom spots in the Metro.
Yeah. Hey, Jamie, before you talk about the Rangers real quick, Aaron Becker says, besides Hellebuck, not many goalies play over 60 games. That is so true. And then John LaRoche, Jordan, your dad, says, Leafs could take a lesson. Win now only works when you win. You know, Al Davis, the great owner of the Raiders, the LA Raiders for years now, the Vegas Raiders. He's not around anymore, but his kid runs the team. And just win, baby. That's all you got to do. It's very straightforward. Just win. I don't want to put you on a spot, Jamie, just before you leave us, but any thoughts about the Rangers and the Rangers goaltending?
No, they have solid young goaltenders, and it's their time to prove themselves. That's it. I mean, New York was very spoiled for 16 or 17 years. They had one guy, and you just knew who it was, and he was one of the best goalies to ever play. They have moved on. Obviously, Lundqvist is just actually recently retired, but they've got two young goaltenders, and we'll see what they can do. I mean, it's I don't think they'll have many more opportunities after this year. You know, if it doesn't work out this year for them, then they'll probably go and find somebody else. But yeah, I think that goaltending I don't think it'll be goaltending that'll be an issue for the Rangers this year.
Yeah. Well, we both like the Rangers. I know how much Jordan likes them. I like the Rangers. I think they're solid. Hey, James, I know you got to go.
Thank you.
I told you 4:30 maximum. I'll let you go. Have a great time at the game tonight, and let's go, Jays. Get behind your team because we always bitch and complain when the team's not winning. We've got a good young team in Toronto. Have a great time, Jay.
Thank you. I'm really excited for it, and thanks for having me on the show, guys. See you later, Jordan.
Enjoy tonight.
And we'll have Jamie on at least once a month to talk about goaltending, how it's going during the year, whether those Rangers goalies are having a problem, whether Peter Mrazek can stay healthy. It's going to be a fun year. Hey, you know what? I wanted to say something before we sign up. Robert Wine, who is one of the best. He's always on our show. He's always on Gucci's show. Anything to do with any of us, he's there. The Journey Sunday nights. He has been incredible. He's trying to help me so much with my, how internet challenged I am and technical challenge. Well, I'm having some issues with my website. And whether it works out or not, I just want to say here to everybody, if you got good friends and good people in your corner, man, you can go a long way. And Robert, you've been a great friend and really tried to help me with this situation I've had with my website. Whether it works or not, I appreciate it so much. Hey, Jordan, I know you're tired. It's been a long drive. Any last words about your journey to Ottawa? And I know you and I both don't think highly of the building. Jamie said it's a great place. I'm not a huge fan of that building, but any last thoughts about last night?
I mean, it was a great time. I'd never been to. I've only been to Ottawa once in my life. Granted, we weren't downtown. But kind of what Jamie said, what really kind of stood out to me was they're supposed to build out this kind of community around the arena. And I mean, our hotel was like a 5-minute drive, but still, I mean, that it's kind of on an island out there, right? Yeah.
Well, Canada, they say that you can build it, and they will come. I don't know if they're going to come to Canada, but and I hope, for the sake of the young, real talented Ottawa Senators, I hope that somehow with Ottawa City Council and local politicians, Eugene Melnick, and now that Roger Lajoie is there, they can build a building, because downtown Ottawa is beautiful. The Byward Market, there's so many great things about downtown Ottawa. The Parliament buildings, if they can find a little piece of land and build a 20,000 seat arena there, I think you're going to get a crowd 100%. Hey, George, thanks as always for coming on. We will see you for sure on Saturday for the round table, and get some rest, buddy. You deserve it.
Well, thank you. See you, Rosie.
No problem. Hey, I'm going to take my my towel off. I wish I had John. Robert is a true gentleman, and it's my pleasure to spend the evening with him. And you got a chance to, I know you guys had a great time last night. And Roger Lajoie is a great guy, and Robert Wine is a gentleman times 1,000. I didn't get a chance to wear an orange shirt today. I will, for next September 30th, I will definitely have an orange shirt. But I had an orange towel at least. But let's forget about the shirt and the towel. Let's really remember what has happened in the past. Remember how we move forward. And the 30th of September, from this point on, starting today, this year, 2021, National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. Let's really be good to each other. Think of what it means to be Canadian. And open your heart. Treat people with respect. And take care of yourself. Until next time, have a great day. God bless.
You've been listening to the Rosen Report, sports like never before, with your host, Rosie. Brought to you by Gooch Live and Paramount Sports Management.